Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. The cruel thing my partner did was let me plan a proposal like our future was mutual. While she hid a pregnancy that was not mine, let her family treat me like a temporary convenience and waited until a room full of guests made it harder for me to react. Here's how it happened. I'm Kason Hart, and the night we hosted our housewarming in Aurora, Colorado, I had a ring in my pocket and a speech practiced in the mirror, steady enough that I believed it could carry us into the next chapter. The house itself was the kind of win you cannot fake. A modest two-story in a newer neighborhood, beige siding, clean lines, a small backyard that still smelled like fresh sod. I work in operations for a logistics company, the kind of job where you learn to measure risk before it becomes damaged. My life used to be a string of rented places and broken leases. Buying that house felt like proof that I had finally outrun the instability I grew up with. Eloan Pierce moved in like she had always belonged there, humming while she unpacked, arranging our living room with soft throws and framed prints. Eloan had a gift for making things look effortless. She could turn a plain meal into a spread with candles and cloth napkins, could make a simple conversation feel like you were the only person in the room. When we met in Denver at a friend's game night, she smiled at me like she had known me longer than a week. She called me steady, and I took it as love. I did not recognize that some people call you steady when they mean you are predictable. Predictable people are easier to use. Predictable people are easier to schedule around. We dated for a year before we started talking about moving in together. She told me she wanted a quiet life, a place with windows, a place where she could grow herbs on the sill. She talked about marriage in careful, soft ways, like she did not want to scare the dream away. When I told her I wanted a house first, she made me feel responsible, like my caution was wisdom. She praised me for planning. Her family praised me too, but in a way that always felt like they were evaluating my usefulness. Their compliments had a hidden question inside. Her mother, Sable Pierce, visited once while the house was still in escrow. She walked room to room, tapping her nails on the counters, asking what the interest rate was, asking how much the down payment had been. She said it was impressive, but her eyes never softened. Her Aunt Drea came behind her, laughing, saying I had stepped up. Her cousin Marek asked me what kind of benefits my job had, the way someone might ask what kind of fence I planned to build. Eloan smiled through all of it, as if their intrusive curiosity was affection. The housewarming became her idea, and I let her run with it. Eloan wanted to bless the home, she said. She wanted to thank everyone who supported us. Us was her favorite word whenever she wanted something. She sent invites, ordered a catered tray of food, and planned a playlist that started with soft R&B and ended with upbeat dance tracks. I bought the ring 2 weeks before, a simple band with a small stone, nothing flashy, something she could wear to work without worrying. I planned to propose in the living room after dessert with the lights dim. That night, the house was full by 7. The air smelled like roasted chicken, cinnamon, and new carpet. People laughed in my living room as if they had paid for it themselves. Eloan floated through the crowd with a glass of sparkling water, greeting everyone, touching shoulders, laughing at jokes that were not funny. I noticed she did not drink. I noticed she ate very little. I asked her quietly if she was okay, and she told me she was just tired, that her stomach had been off. She kissed my cheek like that settled it. I stayed near the kitchen, waiting for my cue. The ring box sat in my jacket pocket like a small, heavy promise. I kept rehearsing my words. How I would tell her she made home feel possible. How I would tell her I wanted to build a life with her that was calm, honest, and safe. In the background, Marek argued about sports with a neighbor I barely knew. Sable sat on my couch like it was her seat, smiling politely at my friends while her eyes scanned the room. Drea laughed too loud at her own stories, holding court. When I stepped into the kitchen to check the food, Drea followed me. She leaned against the counter like she owned that too, one hand on her wine glass, her voice low enough to sound intimate. "This is nice," she said, dragging the words out. "You did good." I thanked her because I was raised to be respectful, even when respect feels wasted. She tilted her head, studying me like she was trying to decide whether I was worth the truth. Then she said, casual as the weather, "So, you know about the baby, right?" I did not understand at first. Not the way you understand things when your brain is still trying to protect you. My first thought was that she was joking, that she meant someone else's baby, that there was a pregnancy announcement hidden in the evening. But Drea's eyes did not laugh. They stayed sharp and flat. Something cold moved through my ribs. "What baby?" I asked, and the words sounded small. Drea blinked slowly. "Oh," she said, pretending surprise. "Eloan did not tell you yet." Behind her, the party continued. Plates clinked. Someone turned up the music. I stood there holding a serving spoon, feeling like my body had separated from my life. My hands started to sweat. I could hear blood in my ears. Drea took a sip of wine and shrugged, as if she had only asked whether I knew about a sale at the store. "I assumed you knew," she said. "With you two moving so fast and all. I thought that was the reason." She walked away before I could form another question, leaving me staring at the counter. I found Eloan by the hallway, laughing with Sable. I watched her face, her easy smile, her bright eyes, and tried to see a crack. I waited for guilt. I waited for fear. She noticed me and lifted her eyebrows, asking silently what I needed. I took her wrist gently and guided her toward the bedroom, careful not to draw attention. She followed, still smiling, like she thought I was about to tell her I loved her. When the door shut, she crossed her arms. "What is it?" she asked, already annoyed. I asked her the question like it was fragile. "Are you pregnant?" The words fell into the space between us and stayed there. Eloan did not deny it. She did not sit down. She did not look away. Her mouth tightened in the same irritated way it did when the internet lagged. "Why would Drea say something like that?" she asked, as if the problem was her aunt's timing, not the truth. My throat burned. "Eloan," I said, "are you pregnant?" She exhaled like I had asked her to do math. "Yes," she said. One syllable. No apology. No explanation. I waited for the rest. How far along? Why she did not tell me. How she found out. She stared at me like I was the one who needed to fix my expression. "I was going to tell you after tonight," she said finally. I did not want to ruin the vibe. Something in me broke so cleanly that it almost felt quiet. "After tonight," I repeated. "After the party I paid for. After you let me stand out there with your family smiling at me." Eloan shrugged. "Do not make it dramatic." I asked a question I did not want to ask. "Is it mine?" Her eyes flicked to the side for a moment, the smallest tell. Then she looked back at me with a strange, steady calm. "No," she said. Again, one syllable. She said it like the weather, like an inconvenient fact. My chest tightened hard enough that I had to lean against the dresser. "Then whose is it?" I whispered. Eloan's jaw set. "That is not your business," she said, as if my entire life had not just become my business. I felt heat behind my eyes. I did not cry in front of her. I did not give her that. "You moved into my house," I said carefully, "and you are carrying someone else's child." Eloan lifted her chin. "We live together," she corrected. "Do not start with that my house talk." She stepped closer, voice sharpening. "You think you are better than me because you have a deed? I told you I wanted stability. You offered it. You did not get to throw it in my face now." The audacity was so complete it almost made me laugh. I asked why she hid it. She rolled her eyes. "Because I needed time," she said. "Because I did not know how you would react. Because I did not want you to leave." She said leave like it was an irrational choice. "You did not want me to leave," I repeated, and my voice cracked. "But you were fine lying to me." Eloan's expression did not soften. "I did not lie," she said. "I just did not tell you yet." It was the kind of word game people use when they want to feel innocent while doing harm. A knock came at the door. Sable's voice, sweet and false. "Is everything okay in there?" Eloan opened the door before I could answer. Sable stepped in, scanning my face. "Kaysen," she said with concern that did not reach her eyes. Eloan turned to her mother and said, "Breezy, Drea said something and he is overreacting." Sable's mouth pressed into a line that suggested she already knew. "Kaysen," she said, "let us not do this tonight. This is a celebration." "A celebration? Of what?" "Of me being used." I looked at Sable and asked, "You knew?" She did not deny it. She did not even pretend. "Of course I knew," she said. That is my daughter. The way she said it made my stomach turn. So everyone knew, I said, voice low. Sable tilted her head. Do not be embarrassed, she said. Things happen. Eloan is a good woman. She made a mistake. You can handle this with maturity. Maturity, like my pain, was a childish tantrum. Eloan stood beside her mother like a protected child, not a grown woman with a secret. I walked out of that bedroom and into my own living room with a smile on my face that felt like a mask stuck to my skin. People laughed and ate, unaware or pretending not to notice my stiffness. Eloan stayed close to her mother, whispering. Drea watched me like she was amused. I did not propose. I did not pull out the ring. I did not create a scene. I poured drinks, thanked guests, and carried plates to the kitchen like my heart was not bleeding. When the party ended after midnight, the last guest stumbled out with leftovers and jokes. When the door finally shut behind the last person, the house fell quiet in a way that made my ears ring. Eloan leaned against the counter and exhaled. Well, she said, as if we had finished hosting a normal event. That was a lot. I stared at her. Do not look at me like that, she snapped. You are not a victim. The words hit harder than the pregnancy. I am not a victim, I repeated, tasting the bitterness. Eloan shook her head like she was disappointed in me. You always want to make everything heavy, she said. That night, I did not sleep. I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling while she slept like a child, one hand on her stomach, peaceful. I wanted to shake her awake and ask how she could be so calm. I wanted to demand an explanation that made sense. But sense is not what people like Eloan offer. They offer convenience. They offer stories that protect them. In the dark, I remembered moments I had brushed off. Her sudden work trips, her phone turned face down, her quick annoyance whenever I asked for details. The next morning, I asked again, quietly, is the father? Eloan did not look up from her phone. It does not matter, she said. What matters is what you're going to do. Her phrasing chilled me. Not what we are going to do. What I'm going to do. I told her I needed space. She laughed softly. Space, she repeated. You are not leaving. You love me. You're just upset. She said it with certainty, like she had already mapped my boundaries and found them weak. I drove to a park in Denver and sat in my car for an hour, hands on the steering wheel, breathing like I was trying to keep my body from shutting down. I called my friend Knox Waller, a quiet man who never wasted words. When he answered, I tried to speak and my voice cracked. Something happened, I said. I do not know what to do. Knox listened without interrupting while I explained. When I finished, he paused. Do not make decisions from shock, he said, but do not ignore reality either. Protect yourself. Quietly. Protect yourself. It sounded clinical, but it was the only language that made sense. My whole career is built on prevention. Locking processes before they fail, documenting details, keeping systems stable. Love had made me sloppy. Love had made me assume people would treat me fairly. I went back home and started paying attention to the small facts. The deed was in my name, but not in a way Eloan understood. When I bought the house, my attorney had suggested a simple ownership structure because I had learned the hard way how quickly ours becomes yours and mine in court. I had never bragged about that. I never waved it in her face. I did not want love to feel like a contract. I wanted trust. But trust had been a gift I gave too easily. That afternoon, Eloan invited her cousin Marek over, as if she needed backup. Marek sat at my dining table, smirking, and said, So what? You are going to put a pregnant woman out? He said it loudly, like he wanted the neighbors to hear. Eloan leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching me like I was a test. No one is putting anyone out, Eloan said, voice smooth. Kaysen is just emotional. Sable arrived soon after, carrying a bag of groceries like she lived there. They started talking over me in my own kitchen, discussing baby names, discussing how to rearrange the guest room into a nursery, as if the house had already been repurposed. I stood there listening, feeling like a stranger in the life I paid for. When I tried to speak, Eloan cut me off. Do not start, she said. We are doing this calmly. Calmly. Their version of calm was me being silent while they rearranged my future. That night, Eloan said, I need you to be supportive. Her voice was firm, like a manager giving feedback. You are going to be a father figure, she continued, and I almost laughed at the insanity. You are joking, I said. Eloane stared at me. Why would I joke, she asked. You love me. You want a family. This is a family. Stop acting like you led a perfect life. I realized she was not afraid of losing me. She was annoyed that I had noticed the truth. The next day, I made an appointment with an attorney in Denver. Imani Ledger, mid-40s, sharp eyes, calm voice. Her office smelled like coffee and paper. I sat across from her and told the story without drama, just facts, because facts are all I could hold on to. Imani listened, then asked, Is your partner on the deed? I told her no. Is she on a mortgage? No. Does she contribute to payments? Not consistently. Imani nodded slowly. Then your focus is documentation, she said. Keep it quiet. Keep it legal. Do not escalate. But do not let them push you into decisions. I left that office with a plan that felt like armor. First, separate finances. Second, change passwords. Third, document every conversation. Fourth, establish a timeline for her to leave if reconciliation was not possible. I already knew reconciliation was not possible, but my body had not caught up yet. In the driveway, I sat with my phone and looked at pictures from the housewarming. Eloane smiling in my living room, her hand resting on her stomach in a way I had not noticed. My chest tightened again. I deleted the pictures one by one, not out of rage, but out of survival. When I returned home, Eloane was on the couch eating crackers, scrolling. Where were you? She asked, suspicion flashing. I told her I had been out. Out where? She pressed. I said I needed air. Eloane's mouth twisted. You are being secretive now, she accused, with no irony. I walked past her and went to my office, locking the door. My hands shook as I opened my laptop. I changed passwords. I printed bank statements. I pulled the closing file from my cabinet. Each paper felt like a small raft in deep water. For a week, I tried to live like a person while my brain worked like a machine. At work, I stared at spreadsheets and nodded in meetings, hearing nothing. At home, Eloane behaved as if everything was normal. She played music while she cooked. She sent me lists of baby supplies. She talked about painting the nursery. When I refused to engage, she grew colder. You are punishing me, she said one night, eyes hard. You are trying to shame me. I said quietly. You are acting like you did nothing. Eloane shrugged. I did what I had to do, she said. One evening, I overheard her on the phone in the laundry room. He will calm down, she said. He always does. Her tone was confident, lazy. My stomach flipped. She was not guessing. She was remembering. She had already trained me to absorb discomfort to keep peace. When she noticed me in the hallway, she did not stop talking. She just lowered her voice and closed the door. That small gesture, shutting me out in my own home, made the decision inside me finally harden. I was not staying in a life where I had to beg for basic honesty. I told her we needed to talk on Saturday morning. She rolled her eyes but agreed, like she was indulging me. When Saturday came, she sat at the table with Sable beside her, as if she needed a witness. Drea joined the speakerphone, laughing in the background. Marek wandered around the kitchen, opening cabinets. I looked at the scene and felt something shift. I was not in a relationship conversation. I was in a negotiation with people who saw me as an asset. I told Eloane, this arrangement ends. You need to move out. Eloane's expression did not break. She did not cry. She did not plead. She leaned back and said, no, just like that. This is my home too, she continued. You cannot put me out. Sable nodded, calm as stone. Drea's voice on the speaker was bright. He will not do it, she said, laughing. He is just upset. Marek muttered. He will look crazy if he tries. I told them, evenly, this home is titled under my ownership structure. You can challenge it if you want, but you will not live here anymore. Eloane's eyes narrowed. So you planned this, she said, bitterness rising. You planned to control me. I stared at her. Control. From the woman who hid a pregnancy and tried to slide me into fatherhood without consent. I planned to protect myself, I said, before I even met you. Eloane's mouth curled. You do not get to play victim and villain, she snapped. Either you're a man who stands by his partner, or you're a coward who runs when things get hard. She equated her betrayal with things getting hard, like a flat tire. I handed her a printed notice. a formal move-out timeline prepared with Imani's guidance. It was polite and clear. It gave her time. It offered help with moving expenses. It stated boundaries. Aloan glanced at it and laughed. "You're doing paperwork now," she said. "How pathetic." Sable stood, stepping toward me. "Kaysen," she said, voice low, "be reasonable. Aloan is pregnant. Do you want the community to know you put her out?" Community. Threats dressed as reputation. I looked at Sable and realized she had never cared about who I was, only what I provided. Over the next few days, Aloan and her family began a quiet war. They did not throw things. They did not yell in public. They did something worse. They rewrote the story everywhere they could reach. Aloan called mutual friends and told them I was unstable. She told one of my coworkers' wives at a barbecue that I had anger issues. Sable texted my aunt in Kansas City, who she had met once, and wrote, "I am worried about Kaysen's mental state." People started checking on me with confused concern. It was humiliating. It was strategic. It was meant to isolate me. I learned quickly how lonely betrayal can be when it comes wrapped in soft voices. Some people do not want to take sides, so they pretend the truth is complicated. A friend from work told me, "Maybe you can work it out." Another said, "But she is pregnant," as if pregnancy turns deception into a misunderstanding. Knox was the only one who did not flinch. He said, "If she can lie about that, she can lie about anything. Hold your line." I held it, even as my body shook at night with stress I could not name. Aloan refused to look for a place. She continued to order packages to my address. She continued to rearrange furniture. One evening I came home and found the guest room half empty, boxes on the floor, paint samples on the bed. "What is this?" I asked, voice tight. Aloan did not look up. "The nursery," she said, like she was discussing a grocery list. I felt the room tilt. "Stop," I said. Aloan turned to me with pure irritation. "Why?" she asked. "Because it hurts your feelings? Grow up." That night, I sat in my car again, parked down the street, staring at my dark house. I thought about the ring box still tucked in my drawer. I thought about the speech I never gave. I thought about how easily love becomes humiliation when the other person never respects you. I called Imani and told her Aloan refused to leave. Imani's voice stayed calm. "Then we proceed," she said. "Proper notice, documented communications, and, if needed, an unlawful detainer action. Keep your tone neutral. Do not engage emotionally. People like this feed on reaction." The legal process moved slowly, which felt cruel when you're living inside the mess. In the meantime, I did what I could without escalating. I bought a locking file cabinet. I moved important documents out of the house. I froze my credit. I changed the locks on my office door inside the home. Aloan mocked every step. "You think you are so smart," she said. "You think you can outplay me." I did not respond. Inside, I felt grief like a constant pressure. I stopped eating full meals. I lost weight. My sleep broke into fragments. The first time Aloan tried to bait me into an argument, it was almost impressive. She waited until Sable was visiting and then said loudly, "I do not even feel safe here anymore." I stopped walking and looked at her. "What are you talking about?" I asked, careful. Aloan clutched her stomach theatrically. "The way you look at me," she said. "The way you slam doors." I realized what she was building. A record. A story. A reason to claim I was dangerous. Sable watched me with a thin smile. I spoke softly. "I do not slam doors," I said, "and I do not threaten you." I walked away. After that, I installed security cameras outside. Not inside, not invasive, just enough to document entries and exits. Imani had advised it, and I followed her guidance. When Aloan saw them, she laughed. "You are really doing this," she said. "You want to be the victim so badly." I did not tell her that the cameras were not about victimhood. They were about reality. People who twist stories fear documentation. A week later, one of the cameras captured Marek arriving while I was at work, carrying a toolbox. He disappeared around the back for 20 minutes and left. When I got home, my back door lock felt slightly different. I checked the footage again and again, anger rising. They were not just disrespecting my boundaries. They were testing my security. I called Imani. She told me to change the locks immediately and document the incident. That evening, I hired a locksmith. Eloan stood in the hallway watching, face cold. You are wasting money, she said. You could spend that on the baby. I looked at her and felt something close to nausea. You keep saying the baby like it is a weapon, I said quietly. Eloan smiled slightly. It is not a weapon, she said. It is reality. People will judge you. I stopped caring about being judged by people who would accept this. I started caring about staying intact. Still, it hurt. It hurt when my phone buzzed with messages from distant relatives asking if I was okay, if I was acting out. It hurt when a coworker avoided my eyes because Eloan had planted a rumor. It hurt when I sat alone in my office at work, staring at a wall, feeling like my life had been stolen. The deepest pain was not anger. It was the humiliating realization that I had loved someone who never even respected my dignity. The court filing date arrived like a small lifeline. I did not want to win. I wanted to breathe. The day before the hearing, Eloan suddenly changed tactics. She cooked dinner, lit candles, and sat across from me with a softer face. We do not have to do this, she said, voice sweet. We can be a family. You can adopt the baby. People do it all the time. My stomach turned. Why would I adopt a baby that is not mine? I asked. When you will not even tell me who the father is? Eloan's sweetness vanished. Because you love me, she snapped. Because you do not have a choice. I do have a choice, I said, and my voice surprised me with how steady it sounded. Eloan stared, as if she had never truly heard me. She stood abruptly, chair scraping. Fine, she said. Then I will make sure everyone knows what kind of man you are. She walked out, slamming the bedroom door hard enough that the walls shook. For a moment, I almost laughed. She had accused me of slamming doors and then slammed one herself. Hypocrisy is effortless when remorse does not exist. That night, I slept on the couch with my phone charging beside me. In court, Eloan tried to bring emotion. She arrived with Sable, Drea, and Marek as a support squad. She wore a loose dress and held her stomach, face composed. I came alone, carrying a folder of documents. Imani sat beside me, calm, professional. Eloan's attorney argued that Eloan had established residency and that removing her would cause hardship. Eloan looked at the judge with wet eyes that I knew were performance. When asked about the pregnancy, she said, I thought we were building a family. She did not mention the lies. She did not mention the father. I did not speak about my feelings. I spoke about facts, ownership, mortgage responsibility, written notices, documented communications, the timeline. The judge listened, then looked at Eloan. Do you have any documentation of ownership or financial contribution? The judge asked. Eloan's attorney hesitated. Sable's face tightened. Eloan glanced at her mother like she expected rescue. There is none. The judge ruled that the lawful process would proceed and granted an order requiring Eloan to vacate by a specific date. Eloan's face hardened instantly. No tears, no humility, just anger at losing control. When we walked out of the courthouse, Eloan hissed, You think this is over? She said it was like a threat. I did not respond. Imani guided me to my car and said, Expect escalation. Keep documenting. Do not engage. That afternoon, Eloan posted vague messages online about betrayal and abandonment, carefully worded to invite sympathy without admitting wrongdoing. People commented on hearts and prayers. Sable commented, You are so strong. Drea commented on laughing emojis. I blocked them all. I did not correct the story publicly. I did not defend myself on the internet. I was done performing. Eloan stayed until the last day permitted, packing slowly, dragging it out. She played music loud while she packed, as if to drown out my quiet. She left the house messy on purpose, trash in corners, food containers in the living room, sticky spills on counters. On her final morning, she walked through the hallway and said, You will regret this. I watched her lift a box and thought about how she had moved into my home with ease and entitlement. No, I said softly, I will not. Eloan paused, surprised, then scoffed. We will see, she said. After she left, I walked through the empty rooms and felt an exhaustion that sat deep in my bones. I expected relief to feel louder. Instead, it felt like silence after an alarm had been blaring for weeks. Your ears still ringing, your body's still tense. I spent a weekend cleaning, scrubbing surfaces, airing out rooms, throwing away items she had left behind. In my drawer, I found a ring box. I held it for a long time, then drove to a jeweler in Denver and returned it. The clerk asked if everything was okay. I said, "It will be." I thought that would be the end. I did not understand how much Eloane still wanted control. 2 weeks after she moved out, I got a notice in the mail. Eloane had filed a claim alleging she had contributed to the home and was entitled to compensation. The claim included statements about shared plans and joint household responsibilities. She had also attached a screenshot of a bank transfer she had made once, a small amount, and presented it as a pattern of contribution. I felt a familiar coldness in my chest. She was still trying to extract value from me after taking so much. I called Imani immediately. She sighed, not surprised. "This is what I expected," she said. "Do not panic. We respond with evidence." We gathered every record: my down payment documentation, mortgage statements, utilities in my name, the ownership structure documents, texts where Eloane acknowledged she was not on anything, and messages where she joked with a friend that she was lucky to have someone stable. I realized she had said the quiet part out loud when she thought I would never see it. Seeing it in writing hurt, but it also strengthened my spine. I was not imagining this. It was real. The day we responded, Eloane sent me a long message from a new number. "You are dragging this out to punish me," she wrote. "You want me to suffer because you are insecure. I hope you feel good about yourself. When people ask what happened, I tell them you abandoned me and my child. I tell them you were never ready for commitment." I stared at the screen, feeling my hands go numb. She was still rewriting reality. She was still certain that shame would bend me. I did not reply. I forwarded it to Imani and saved it in my file. The karma did not arrive as a dramatic collapse. It arrived as consequences that are quiet, legal, and final. During discovery, Eloane's claim began to unravel. Her evidence was thin. Her timeline did not match. And then something unexpected happened. She submitted a document that looked like a lease agreement and claimed it proved she had paid me rent informally. The problem was that the document included details that were not true: wrong dates, wrong amounts, even my middle initial incorrectly used. It looked manufactured. Imani's eyes narrowed when she saw it. "This," she said, tapping the page, "is risky for her." The court took the fabrication seriously. A judge does not like being manipulated, especially with forged-looking paperwork. Eloane was asked to explain under oath where the document came from. She hesitated. She tried to say Marek had helped her organize records. The judge pressed. The more she talked, the clearer it became that the document was not legitimate. The court sanctioned her for submitting false evidence, ordering her to pay part of my legal fees. It was not a public scandal. It was not a viral moment. It was a quiet, humiliating consequence that landed like a locked door. Eloane left the hearing with her face hard and her hands shaking. I heard later, through a mutual acquaintance, that Eloane had tried to lean on the baby's father for help with the sanctions. She had finally told people his name, a man in ST. Louis she had described as complicated. Complicated, apparently, meant unreliable. He did not step in. He stopped answering consistently, then disappeared entirely. Sable, who had spoken so boldly in my kitchen, did not pay either. Drea made jokes. Marek blamed Eloane for not being careful. The same people who pushed her into using me suddenly acted like she was on her own. That was the part that felt like karma, watching them abandon her the way they expected me to. And still, Eloane never apologized. She never admitted she was wrong. When she ran into Knox's girlfriend at a store, she told her Kaysen was always controlling. When someone asked her why she hid the pregnancy, she said, "He would not have understood." She carried her lack of remorse like a shield, even as her life narrowed. I did not celebrate her struggle. I did not want to see her destroyed. I just wanted the truth to stop chasing me. The sanction order did something powerful. It confirmed, in a way no conversation could, that she had been dishonest. After the legal matter ended, I realized the house no longer felt like home. Every room held a memory I did not want to sleep beside. I could have stayed out of stubbornness, but stubbornness is not healing. I decided to sell. Not immediately, not in panic, but with intention. I repainted walls, replaced damaged fixtures, hired a cleaner, and staged the living room with furniture that did not belong to an old version of me. Listing the house felt like closing a chapter. When the first offer came in strong, I accepted without bargaining. I wanted a clean exit. I moved to Minneapolis for a promotion I had quietly pursued during the worst months, the kind of success you do not announce to anyone who tried to break you. My new apartment was smaller, brighter, and mine in a way that felt unthreatened. I kept my life simple: work, gym, groceries, sleep. I started therapy on Tuesday evenings with a counselor who did not let me minimize. She asked me why I ignored my instincts, why I equated endurance with love, why I felt guilty for protecting myself. I did not have easy answers. But week by week, I started feeling my body return to me. Success came slowly, quietly, and privately. I took on bigger projects at work, earned a raise, and built savings without telling anyone who would treat it like an invitation. I learned to cook meals I actually enjoyed. I read books again, the kind that require attention, because attention is something betrayal steals from you. I stopped checking Alohan's social media. I stopped wondering if she missed me. I stopped trying to understand how someone could do what she did without remorse. Understanding is not necessary for healing. Sometimes, the only necessary truth is that you deserve better. A year after the housewarming, I traveled back to Colorado to visit a friend. I did not tell many people. I wanted to test whether my chest would tighten when I saw familiar streets. In a grocery store parking lot near my old neighborhood, I saw Alohan by accident. She was pushing a cart slowly, her shoulders heavier, her face tired in a way makeup cannot fully disguise. A stroller sat beside her car. Sable was not there. Drea was not there. Marek was not there. It was just her, alone in the ordinary weight of life. She looked up and saw me. For a moment, time slowed. I expected something: regret, shame, even anger. Alohan's face hardened instead, like she was offended that I still existed. She did not wave. She did not speak. She stared at me as if I had stolen something from her. And I understood, in that quiet moment, what her remorse would have required. She would have had to admit she used me. She would have had to see me as human. People who refuse remorse often refuse it because it would shatter the story they tell themselves. Alohan turned away and loaded her groceries without looking back. I drove away and felt no urge to chase closure. Closure is not something you receive from people like that. It is something you choose. In my car, I rested my forehead on the steering wheel and let myself breathe. I was not shaking. I was not angry. I was not desperate to be understood by someone who never tried to understand me. I realized I had crossed a line I used to fear. I could remember her without wanting her. That is a kind of freedom that arrives quietly, like morning light in a room you thought would stay dark forever. The twist people expect in stories like this is revenge, public humiliation, dramatic exposure, a crowd cheering for karma. That was never my path. My comeback was smaller and stronger. I refused to be an accessory in my own life. I refused to raise a child built on deception. I refused to let her family's pressure become my prison. I let the law do its slow, unglamorous work. I let documentation speak. I let consequences land without me narrating them for an audience. And then I left, not with a speech, but with a plan: job, home, health, peace. Sometimes I still think about the ring in my pocket and the way Drea's question sliced through the night. So, you know about the baby, right? I used to replay it like a wound. Now I hear it as an alarm that saved me from a longer, deeper lie. Alohan thought the baby was leveraged. She thought my desire for family would trap me. She thought my decency would make me swallow anything to keep the appearance of love. She was wrong. My success stayed private. My transformation stayed quiet, and my peace became the only ending that mattered. If you stay to the end, you understand the real win wasn't public revenge, it was peace. If you want more stories where karma hits quiet, legal, and final, subscribe and turn on notifications. Now comment peace if you think Kaysen made the only choice that mattered. And tell me this: would you have exposed her at the housewarming or stayed silent like you did? The end.